Well, it's just 6:30 a.m. in New York City, and I'm heading up to the spot in the Catskills, but today there's nothing there, so I'm bringing a whole bunch of stuff up into the woods in very cold weather.
Hi there, I'm Hank Coyote. I answer to both Hank and Coyote. This channel that I'm starting right here, right now, is called It's Never Too Late to DIY. Do it yourself. It's cheaper. Doing things yourself saves you a lot of money. From 1/10 of what you would spend, or sometimes it's just a quarter of what you would spend or half what you would spend, but spending less is more. And that's, to me, the first secret to wealth is inner wealth, wealth of loved ones, love of self, but then also just not wasting money. Start there. And then that might give you a chance to start accumulating money. So think of it as a bucket. If there's a hole in the bucket, how's the water that's coming in going to fill it up? So stop the leak. Let the bucket fill naturally. Let physics do the work. It applies to finances. I hope. I'm not rich, but I'm doing, better than I have been because I've been following this Coyote DIY philosophy. About 50 miles outside of New York City on my way to the raw land that I'm going to build a glamping site on myself. My goal with this campsite is to make it beautiful for other people. To make it beautiful for other people, I have to start to make it beautiful for myself. Right now it's raw land. It's difficult to access. The part of the land that I'm developing right now is on the other side of a brook. So I've got a couple days to build a survival shelter as fast as I can, yet make it as comfortable as possible. My goal is to make something that's comfortable and livable for this first season or two that I'm working on this campsite to make things for other people. I have to live there first and decide and feel out all of the things that I want to have and where they're going to happen. I paid the going price for a beautiful piece of land, which is too much money post-pandemic. So that's that. That's why, another reason why I have no money to spend on having other people build stuff, so it kind of feeds into my DIY philosophy quite well, and I don't have a choice. In the past, my family owned a small farm here, and I wanted to maintain a connection with the valley and the friends that I have, but really it was more about the valley and how well I know it and how comfortable I am existing here and how well I know the wildlife and the flow of nature here, the temperatures, the seasons. It's helpful when you're basically homesteading by yourself in the woods. So this was a camping property about 40 years ago, and then has not been used since then. There's some great things about that and some not great things. The driveway, which you see, used to be great, and underneath all this growth it still is graded perfectly with nice drainage on either side, but there's a lot of trees in here, so I'm backing in until the tree line, and these trees eventually are going to have to come out, and having my car here is also a way that friends that are visiting me this weekend can find me. This is my backpack. Now, if you're just going for a nice winter hike and sleep over in the woods, or you're hunting or something of that nature, a bag like this and all the things in it, it's a pretty heavily packed bag. That's all you're going to need. However, this is a homesteading trip, and I'm making a movie. Currently, I'm using my phone, but there's a thing full of camera equipment. I have this clear box because that's going to be part of my sort of septic system, latrine system. And I have other things that I'm going to be leaving here. A camp chair is something, it's a comfort device until I build a chair out of wood out here. And of course, a cooler, because I'm not truly roughing it. I'm just sleeping outside where it's cold at night. For some people, that's roughing it. My wife would
thinks I'm crazy. My son probably would never do this, you know, but for other people, this ain't roughing it at all. Going into the woods with, you know, just a jacket and a knife in the same conditions, that's roughing it. I'm not far from the road in this place, but that was part of the allure if I'm making a glamping spot. I want people to feel that they're in the woods. You can turn 360 degrees and no houses nearby or anything like that can see you. But I also want them to feel like they can leave. And if they have an emergency, the road's right up there. Okay, here's the brook. This divides the property. So there's the side that I'm on, where you can see way up there is the car. And up in that area, I'm planning a platform that overlooks this brook and all kinds of fun things down here for glampers. And then there's going to be a campsite, which I started over there, and that's where we're building this lean-to. And currently the ways of crossing this brook are when it's low, you just kind of walk across if your shoes are, you know, waterproof, or you can rock hop. And then there's this nice fallen tree, which, you know, if you're carrying a bunch of stuff, gets a little bit sketchy. What you're seeing is almost the totality of my possessions that I keep here at the moment. Eventually there's going to be a shipping container, and, you know, we're going to go from there. But yes, we have a World War II era metal chest that's going to keep the rodents out, and I have a tarp with baling twine, which is indispensable for little backwoods projects if you don't want to leave like a footprint behind of like nylon rope or zip ties or things like that, which I definitely don't want to do. Okay, so we have things that help with backwoods living. Once again, this is not survival camping. This is homesteading and staying comfortable in the backwoods. So a Coleman stove or two, a Coleman light that works off pressurized gas, and a lantern, a kerosene lantern, and some extra gas. And definitely what really helps are a couple of cots, because keeping yourself off the ground once it gets below 40 degrees is an absolute must. Of course, it's in the shade of this tree right now, but that's my little post hole, which is the equivalent of, you know, making a concrete post hole for your fence post or gate or whatever. So this is the primitive equivalent. This is birch. I did cut some small live birch, but with consciousness. This is from a small stand of birch that there was like 6 of these brothers and sisters all growing in a cluster. So by taking the 2 that I think looked like the weakest, I let the other 4, they're going to thrive over the years because these aren't going to be robbing them of sunlight and nutrients. So, and they're now part of my pleasure, my happiness, my positive energy, the things that I'm thankful for when I pray. So, done with consciousness, you can definitely work with trees. Okay, so it's not perfect because if I had more time, these sides would be down on the ground. I'm going to have wind blowing through here, which is not great. Kind of defeats the purpose of the fire. But it's getting late, so what I'm going to do is just make some wings out of some reflective mylar material that I have, emergency blanket material. And that ought to get me through the night. Sorry to waste my emergency blankets, but I want to be warm tonight, and that's the best way to do it given the time frame. We've made a temporary lean-to shelter in the spot where we want to put a log lean-to shelter. Got the temporarily, I have the Coleman lantern in here. So I have another tarp that I use to close off this side. Once again, I really just could have made this smaller, but I ran out of time. Once I set it up and saw how big it was, I really just ran out of time. So I figured I'd work with what I've got. On this side, I've got that emergency blanket stuff. I managed to rip it down here in this corner, so I'm just piling my stuff in the corner over there. I actually have that Pelican case with all my camera equipment, so I'm going to stick that back there. It's going to make a nice wall. And then I have a beautiful view of the fire. It's a little quiet now, the fire, but lots of wood to burn and lots of fire to have. And I can sit out here and look at the brook, and, you know, with this nice reflective inside of this tarp, and even the fact that with that, even though I have the front of this open, once the fire is going, this area is going to capture a lot of heat. It's just about bedtime, and let's show you how people stay warm when camping if you don't know if the weather is cold. So obviously there's this huge fire that I have going, and it is reflecting with if you see in the back, I have those logs that are helping to reflect the fire back towards us, the ones stacked in the back. And they'll eventually burn, but they're like water-soaked, rotten, heavy logs. So it's going to take all night, and that's fine, because there'll be charcoal in the morning. And then in terms of my sleeping situation, it's kind of hard to see. So on the outside is what's called a bivy sack. I got a military sleep system used, and it didn't come with a bivy sack because they tend to wear out, basically. This one is made of the same fabric that Tyvek is made out of, and certain raincoats are made of. And obviously it's reflective in this case, and it's a cute orange color on the outside. So I guess if you die, people can find you. And then, so then there's a warmer sleeping bag, a black one, which is why you can't see it. And then there's a inner sleeping bag. I don't know if you can see the difference. It's so dark in here. So there's an inner sleeping bag. So there's 1, 2, 3 layers. I'm sure there's so many other sleep systems, but this is an older military sleep system, not state-of-the-art today, mixed with this bivy sack, mixed with this fire, mixed with this lean-to. And there's other things people can do, I can explain in other videos on how to keep warm. But basically do everything you can to keep warm when it's cold outside, so you can sleep well and be happy camping. Happy camping. All right, it's morning. It's about 7:30. I've been up for about 20 minutes. I would have loved to stay asleep a little longer, but, you know, I had to go to the bathroom, and that gets you up, doesn't it? So, nice night. I wasn't overly cold. It got a little chilly once the fire died down after around, 4 o'clock in the morning. And that's the thing, you're in your sleeping bag, and you do not want to get out of it, even if it is to, tend the fire and make it a little warmer in your environment. You just don't want to get out of your sleeping bag. So I woke up to embers, which is fine. There was still lots of wood around. It took me about 4 minutes to get the fire going, and that is the way this shelter is designed. It immediately warmed up the shelter, so I'm feeling very comfortable again. I've got the stove over there on, making water for my coffee, because you definitely want coffee in the morning. And yeah, all in all, everything worked. So, time to get back to it. Right now, I'm just going to make some instant oatmeal. It really is a great way to get some food and calories into your tummy and to get rid of the hunger pangs. And it's very passive. I pour some hot water in it, I cover it for a little while, I come back and I eat it. Alright, that was easy. That's gonna do it on me.
And over here we have our growing resources pile. We got logs that are already down here. These are the heavier ones, the more dangerous ones to move. And we're just going to keep adding to this pile. I don't know where I'm going to get today. So bacon time. Definitely eggs too, but that's a lot easier. Throw it in a pan. Not that bacon is hard. So this is some Hungarian bacon. This stuff is really good, and it allows me to. It's well preserved. It's definitely properly smoked. It allows me to cut off a little bit at a time and then wrap it up and put it away. Less bacteria. Less fingers squishing into the slices of bacon in an American bacon packet and pulling them out, especially when you're camping. I just cleaned my hands in the brook, but you know, there's stuff on your hands when you're camping. There's bacteria, and there's not proper refrigeration. It's cold out here, but you need to think about bacteria in everything you do. I'm constantly cleaning. This has been sterilized, constantly cleaning, because you don't want to. Well, you're out in the woods. You don't want to have a health problem. You definitely don't want to give yourself some kind of crazy diarrhea out in the woods. It's not a great situation. That was a lot of talking. Let's cook. Wakey, wakey. Eggs and bakey. Now, my egg could be cooked a little bit more, a little bit better, but they're fresh eggs. They're fine. I'm not giving myself salmonella. What I don't want is, since I broke one yolk, I don't want to overcook yolks. So I'll take a little undercooked egg white. A lot of people cannot deal with that. But camping, I've learned to deal with a lot of things as long as they're healthy. I mean, shoot, if you're starving, you can make soup out of slugs and earthworms. Not that I'd want to, but the point is, you got to make some concessions when you're out here. I can't reorder. I can't send this back. Now, I did this without measuring. I eyeballed while I was up there in the sticks, cutting this. Let's see how good my eyeballing was. It looks like I'm down to the inch, but let's see if I messed up. All right, so here we go. It's not really super pretty, but it's going to be effective once again. So you can see I've used some tree limbs, and that's kind of like, once again, I'm kind of sketching out certain ideas for what I want to do. When I really build something, you can see that I've got some logs to give me a kind of boundary and also to keep drafts out along the bottom. And it's things I can tie stuff to and pin things under. Very helpful. So this one's a little bit smaller. I had the same problem where I had just like a little gap. It's smaller now, but I still had a little gap on either side, and we can't have that in the middle of the night. Cold wind near my feet and my head. So that's been covered up. We have my mylar and this other tarp once again. All of those things, all the work into cutting wood and getting it all together, when you wake up in the woods, either alone or you're with a friend or a loved one or a group of people, and it's beautiful like this, it's all worth it. You know, not everybody gets to see this and appreciate it. And you might live in a beautiful house by a brook. I used to live in a house by this brook, and yeah, it was beautiful to see that brook every morning out the window, but there's nothing like being right here on it yourself. And that's one of the lovely things about camping.